Hi, everyone. Welcome to our Back to Social Live LinkedIn. 𝗖ście Global, we are a people development company. We provide coaches and corporate clients with solutions to level up on individual and group performance by reducing uncertainty and friction with people and between people. And not better way to do this by sharing experience with these two beautiful ladies from different angles, the uncommon sense. Please introduce yourself. Maybe we'll start with Christiana.
Yeah, thank you. So I'm really, as always, every Sunday evening, happy to see you again. This time we're really talking about, a sort of favor of mine, because communication is really, all around us and is so important when we talk about, how do we want to arrange now our remote work or hybrid working models? How could we deal with communication in that sense? And as always, is intercultural communication there also an important fact when we think of diversity and so on? So I'm really thrilled about our talk this evening.
Hello, my name is Maria. You already know me from last time. I was born in Spain and I'm Germanized. And I'm thrilled too about talking about communication because I speak a lot and because I believe that exchanging opinions and positions and words help us to understand each other and to find the magic place where the place where magic happens, where we can do beautiful things together. So for me, communication is to a space where, because I say what I believe or my start point, I can share it, and then that may help the other person understand where I am, and we can then, miss some misunderstandings or let them not happen, or at least acknowledge them and try to, work from that place.
Absolutely. This is communication. It's one of the keys to building the relationships between people, in teams, in the companies. And we have different forms of communication. And one of them is nonverbal communication, which is very difficult right now when we live in this post-pandemic situation. How do you see this is happening?
I think...
sorry.
I think one of the first things that have changed the pandemic and working more from home and online is that people are willing to share more information, or they had to share more information about circumstances. I have right now here one, for example, I have a tiny circumstance who is 4 years old on my side, who just appeared here and wants something. So we are like more willing to exchange information and to communicate and to explain circumstances in order to work more effectively and to explain, like, this is my start point. So, and from here I can do that, or ask for what do I need, express more needs, and talk more openly about the situation. What do you think?
Yeah, I guess when you work from home, then you need also time to get in touch with your team, with your supervisor, and so on. I guess communication is really a point you have to see. You need time for it. But I guess, or I think that when you've got a good communication basis with open-minded communication, so that you can really say, hey, what are your feelings, your opinions, your thoughts, and you can talk openly with your team about it, then it is really an advantage when it comes to remote work and when it comes now to the back to normal.
I think this is the point where things are coming very difficult, because I know that psychological safety, being open and being able to speak about everything with the teams, that was a very long existing problems, even though that we were not in pandemic situations. We were working in offices with the people every day, communicating. But I think what pandemic did to us, it opened up this ability to speak up and say it, this is me, and that's how I feel. And how do you feel? Which it didn't happen before because it was on a context of whole group, and now it's more on a context of individuals. That's how it looks from my perspective.
I totally agree. I think that the pandemic has helped fashion the professional and the personal people. Like until now, it was like, okay, I'm the professional person delivering projects, delivering results, delivering whatever. And communication was a tool in order to achieve what I was delivering. And because of the pandemic, we are people managing situations in different levels at the same time. And communication is not a tool, but it's the way of getting everything up together. Like, hey, this is not working for me today. Do you think we could do this? And because we have been, and all of us, under the same situation, although we are facing different circumstances, but we are facing the same thing. Like Christiane said the other day, that we were facing the same storm from different boats, yeah? Then communication is the water, I think, yeah? And that's the way of ours exchanging and getting to our destination, to our final destination.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think communication is always happening within a different context. When you are in the office, just you said you are just perhaps first the professional one. But when you're sitting at your home and you do homework and you're meeting your supervisors, your team from your home, you're sort of inviting the people to your home, and the context is a different one. So I guess this is perhaps would have changed us, that we are sitting here in our homes, and then the context in our communication is a different one than we were just in the office, so to say.
Absolutely. But now I think so the biggest key is to be very clear how we communicate, because we can be very easily misunderstood, because all of us, we have a different communication styles, right? Absolutely. We can be subjective, objective, and if we not having that clear communication style, trying to get it to the point when we have those email conversations, because that's the most common messaging email conversations, the meetings, that's the privilege. But the communication constantly comes to in the writing. Then I think so this is where very often with the different communication styles, we're gonna have lots of frictions and lots of issues, because someone's gonna come across very rude, or someone's gonna come across, then there is no point in that conversation. So it's too many words, but there is no point. How do you see that? Because I know you're working with the intercultural intelligence, right?
Yeah, I know what you mean. Perhaps at some point, the communication changed to a sort of more effective communication, because when you work remotely, as you said, you have to come to a point in your emails, in your communication. You have to think, okay, who is in charge of what, who has to be in this call, and so on. Perhaps it is in a way more effective arranged now when you work in remote ways. But on the other side, the small talk, the just, hey, what about this? What do you think about this? This is not given when you are just in the remote phase and you are not getting really in touch. So I guess it's really ambivalent. So you have on the one side the effectiveness and the change in communication, but on the other side, perhaps a sort of lack of this small talk communication, or remember when you just go into the kitchen, grab a coffee, and you get in touch with another colleague. These are situations, they're not given when we think about remote work, flexible work, changing in teamwork at the office, in the home office. So this is really for me something, I don't have a recipe for this, but it's really interesting that these things have really changed.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think like it was a very, so the pandemic has put a very big change very quickly. Like we started middle of March, and I think at the beginning of April, there was already everybody knew what was Zoom and how to deal with it and how to work with it. Yeah. And because everybody was adapting, or like the biggest issue was to adapt working from home, that was one of the quickest things that we did. But we thought like we can use Zoom like we have a meeting in the office, but actually it isn't, because in the office, one of the things that I noticed from the beginning, in the office or in meetings, you are looking to the people, so you are moving the head, and then the people know that you are talking to them. If we are in Zoom, we are all talking to the front, yeah, to the screen, and it's very difficult to, with the eyes, tell someone that you are asking this person a question or expecting an answer, yeah. And so even the non-verbal language has changed a lot through Zoom, yeah. And maybe now, like after every crisis, when we are adapting, in the adapting moment is the time to see, okay, what do I want to keep and what not, yeah. And take the effectiveness that is good and put some coffee, wine, whatever, small talk time on it, so that the people can still get in touch with people, which was probably the aim from the beginning, right?
Yes, I guess you need to be perhaps in somewhere more creative and to really activate your participants if you arrange, for example, a meeting and so on. For example, I had my last master and bachelor celebration party of the 𝗖ญ่𝗶𝗰𝘁𝗶𝗂 just in a virtual mood. And first I thought, oh gosh, no, this is something I don't want to have in a virtual thing. I cannot imagine how this could work. And they built up something. It was really great. It was such a party feeling. They activated the people. They had so many things arranged before. We were sending a package with things for the evening, and it was really great, but it was a big organization on their part. So yeah, perhaps it's in some ways a kind of to be more open, to be more creative, and to change your communication as well. Yeah,
that's very interesting. It's amazing how we can adapt as a people. You know, this is something we never thought will be available. Like we were talking last time, if you ask for working remotely from at work, most of the time you will probably be rejected or even deprimant. And now look, you have a box sent home before organizing a party on a Zoom. How awesome is that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. Creativity was one of the biggest parts of the beginning of the crisis, and I think I saw it here in Germany with the restaurants, because from one day to the other they had to close, and some of them really close. I think I have an assistant here, a tiny assistant. Sorry for that.
That's perfect.
So some restaurants closed, and other restaurants look for alternatives. So this to go. So okay, I'm preparing you the same menu, everything, and then you can take it. Yeah, and there were some restaurants preparing some boxes so that you can cook at home with a playlist in Spotify with the menu and so on. Yeah, and I think that was probably like the idea. So how did you manage? Did you just stay? I was, for example, the other day in a supermarket for, I don't know the name, in a Bauhaus. So where you can buy things for building things at home, or plants and so on, yeah. And they were like, yeah, we still haven't managed. You know, it's the first pandemic since I've been working here. And I was like, yeah, for all of us, it was the first pandemic. But some people are getting amazing things done, yeah. And I'm talking about the people, like, for example, software development. So how many programs have we learned in very short time, yeah? And we are experts on it. Or communication strategies or creativity, yeah. And there's some people who have just stayed with, oh, it's a pandemic, I don't know how to deal with it, yeah. And I wonder, for example, 𝗂𝗂𝗂𝗂, if it could be maybe nice to let the people who took the test a couple of years ago to take the test again, and see if the pandemic has changed anything in how they communicate. Because I think we will be not surprised, of course, to see some differences. Like, for example, the low context people probably are communicating now more high context, and the high context people are more communicating in a more effective way because Zoom doesn't is not able to. You're not able to communicate as much. Maybe. What do you think?
I think so with the global disc. I think what it is, the flexibility, what we have, it's about the global disc is to understand how we communicate, and it's not about changes, but it's about being flexible and understand. Then they are possibly they are changes, but I don't think so they're going to be huge changes. They can be slightly things, because the values and drives you have, they're still going to be the same. You're going to be you, just by being able to get out of your comfort zone and being more flexible. The insight's not going to change, but you just gaining more opportunity to communicate in a different ways, to be more flexible, because this is the point. It's not about change. It's about stretching your comfort zone, having that uncommon sense, being able to stop, listen, seeing the different situations, seeing the same situations from different perspectives. But yeah, it could be interesting. We could actually do it because you did when did you do it, Global Disc, with me?
I did it on this year. So already.
Oh, you did it this year. Yeah.
In the pandemic.
yeah. But we could in the pandemic. Then we should find someone who did it before, like a couple of years ago, and then how. Is there anything happening? We could do an experiment.
But actually, it could be nice. So maybe asking. So I was thinking about doing a poll in LinkedIn directly and ask, so which behaviors, because at the end what we have changed, and you're totally right. So the persons, we are still the same, but which behaviors have the pandemic changed most on us? Yeah.
But I guess you have to keep in mind that we are in a sort of perhaps special bubble, because we are now really used to Zoom. As you said, we know which buttons we have to press. As 𝗂cy came up with the idea doing live sessions, okay, it was not so hard for us to arrange this and to try this. But imagine you are, for example, a craftsman, craftswoman, or working in a hospital and so on. Then you are not really used to these virtual tools. So it's, for me, it's really interesting to see, okay, I'm really used to it. It's, for me, really now daily business. But there are a lot of people who are not capable of dealing with all these things. And this is really something, I'm pretty excited to see how this will perhaps change as well in the future. How could we get in touch with these people who are not in this Zoom and so on bubble?
Absolutely. I was thinking too that there, like, people who were not in social media before the pandemic and are still not in social media. And for example, I'm thinking about my mother, who has still doesn't know what is Facebook or Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, whatever. And I think that because we've been and going back to communication, so we have communicated a lot through all the social media, through the whole pandemic, and it has been our information channels, and it has been our exchange channels. So, but what about the people who was only like this one-face information, like TV or paper newspapers? So how are they dealing with the new normality, or with the communication nowadays? They communicate less, I think, right?
Yes, and I guess really a good point was the exchange factor, to have the possibility to get in touch with people who were thinking about the same things, who were feeling about the same things in the same way. This was, for me, really an anchor through these times.
But for example, my mom, doesn't use very much of any social media apart of WhatsApp or the phone. But she feels comfortable. Every time I speak with her, it's the video calls, because that's how we communicated. It's it's between countries.
Mm.
And then she feel comfortable with the social media if she wants to. She just don't have that need to go for anything else. She have her family. Her daughter call her, she have enough. You know, that's I call her, I think so, through the pandemic more than I ever before.
Yeah,
You
that's
know.
right.
But I think so. This is interesting topic. But I think everyone is because they have a very different needs. That's why they go for social media, or they just have a one stream where they can communicate with their loved ones.
Mm.
And that's going to down to, again, what is important to us at this time. Because for us, that's our work as well. The social media, connecting with people, learning something new. This is ongoing work. That's the fun part, but it's a work. For my mom, that doesn't have any benefits.
Mm-hmm.
She doesn't see it. She sent me a message on the Facebook for my birthday, for my partner birthday. She sent me a cut video or a special message because she saw it and she thought of me. But that is it.
Yeah.
I don't know how we could find out more how that's been affected with the other people.
I think that the speed of the news nowadays compared with like 20 years ago, and I'm exactly, for example, thinking about 11th of September, that we had, yes, internet, but most of us were close to the glued to the TV in that moment, finding more information. And right now, because we are more communicated through social networks, we get much easier and much quicker all the information. Like, we don't have to wait until the news in order to get the information. So maybe like there's people getting quicker access to information than other people, and if I wonder, for example, right now, if that helps developing creative solutions or thinking like reacting in a different way or behaving in a different way. What do you think?
I guess it's as always, it has two sides on the medal. So on the one side, it could be really an advantage when you see it as an exchange, as a possibility to gain more creativity, to see more options and so on. But on the other side, just when you think of social media could have also a really bad influence. So in particular for younger people. So it's really, as always in life, the two sides of the medal. It could be really a good point, an advantage, but it could be as well a disadvantage when you're perhaps too affected of it.
We are in an era of the fake news.
Absolutely, yeah. Exactly. And I guess communication is therefore so important because it is an important fact how you receive information. Sometimes I was so depressed of all this COVID-19 news, I didn't want to hear news. Although I was interested in getting the latest facts, but it was such a negative journalism from my point of view. And I guess this is something we always have to keep in mind, how we want to communicate. Do we want to communicate in a positive way, or do we sometimes often as well communicate in a, yes, so to say, negative way, to say, that was not so good, and so on. So this is really something interesting. How do we want to say something and want to inform other people?
This is very interesting because I found it that one of the best tools actually when we communicate, I don't know if I'm pretty sure you know about this, is the SBI method. It's giving the feedback, which is the situation, behavior, and the impact. Then you say exactly the situation, what you're talking about, exactly the behavior. You're removing everything which is your opinion, but it's about this how you felt. Then this is the beginning, the situation, this type of behavior and the impact, this is how make me feel. This is how I can see this. I found this, it sounds so easy, but it's so difficult to do.
It's, I think it's non-violent communication from Marshall Rosenberg has increased its potential thanks to the pandemic a lot, because I see a lot of people, I think like a couple of years before it was just like a German thing somehow, yeah. But right now, all the non-violent communication workshops are exploding. They are everywhere, I feel, yeah. And people are starting to use it, which actually is very good, not only because we communicate in a different way, but because people are starting to think about their feelings and about their needs.
Yeah.
Something that is very important when we communicate, because it's not only about passing information, but it's about like, how do I feel, or and what do I need, yeah. And then, so why not?
Yeah, and for example, if you think of gender neutral language, as we have currently in Germany, a lot of discussions about this fact. So for me, it's really the point, how do I want to communicate? How do I want that my counterpart feels when I'm talking to him or her? So it's not the point what I expected or what is allowed to say. It's just the question for me, how do I want to be understood?
Then it's probably like the message is not that important, but the way we say it, or the way, not only that the way we say it, but the acknowledgement that it means that we say this message. Like, I think we have seen that a lot last month in June in the Pride Month, yeah. So many companies, and more in Germany, so many companies with rainbow colors on their flags. And then there was in Munich, it was not allowed to wear the flag on the stadium, for example, yeah. And there were different reactions from different companies. And the thing I was thinking is like, okay, so now you have the possibility to transmit your message like you have been trying to do the whole month or not. So it's not only what we say, so how do we say it to, and to whom are we talking, right?
Absolutely. And you see that communications could be as well signs. It's not the words. So when we think about the rainbow flag, it is not speak with words or languages. It's just the sign, the colors, the sign. So this is also communication.
I'm going to communicate that I'm going to switch on my light, because I communicate that there's a big storm right now here, and it's getting darker.
Darker and darker around you, Maria.
That looks like a big storm. Yeah, it's like one moment it just goes black.
So now she's got enlightened.
Yeah. Yay, we can see you.
Wait. No, there's light behind me. Sorry. I communicate next time. I will prepare more for the weather of the summer of North Germany.
Yeah, but I believe that in the communications, it's we shouldn't assume that someone is meaning something. If we feeling that you feel certain emotions when you get that information, we should just confirm, this is what you mean? Because this makes me feel that way. Because very often we react to certain messages or sentences or the way the email was structured because of it's reminding us of something what happened in the past, how this makes us feel, and very often have nothing to do with what's happening right now.
Absolutely. Yes. Sometimes when I'm reading messages in front of my husband and I'm doing it in a special way, then sometimes he's asking me, do you think the person who was written the message to you was in that same mood as you are reading now the message? And this is, as you said, 𝗂𝗂, sometimes you have something in your mind, but perhaps it was not the message you were receiving. It was just the feeling you got when you were reading the message. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. I totally agree too, and maybe that's the task that I take for myself for this week, starting tomorrow. Like to ask more about if the feeling that I'm getting from the other person is the right one, and what they need from me. And maybe that's a way of making it easier to communicate and more effective, because we are getting what we want easier and probably much more human, right?
That's the thing. I think, bullet, because I met a lady. She recently took their company over, which is working with 25 countries. And every month she needs to do a newsletter email to everyone who's coming to the meetings. And she took it over from someone who was English. Her emails were amazing, beautifully written, structure. You just wanted to read them. But the support team, when she asked the support team what they do most, they said 65% of work they do, it's about the email, because everyone who's reading the emails, they don't understand what's happening. And changing the structure to the emails, making them factual, down to facts.
Yeah.
They went down to 35% of work being related to the emails. It's crazy. There's misunderstandings because of the differences with the language and just the communication.
Yeah. Totally agree.
So we are flashed now with our communication. So many things now to think about in a new way, but as Maria said, we have now tasks for the next week.
Let's do that, and let's talk about how this is going to change, and maybe we could be more careful with actually being mindful when we read information from others. And the first time you read it and the second time you read it, and how do you feel different? Do you get different informations out?
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, great idea. Let's share next week our experiences about it.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. It was a pleasure, ladies. Thank you, everyone who's joined us now or watching the replay, and see you next week.
See you next week. Thank you very much.
Bye.
Bye.
Have a great week. Bye.